JMU is top dog in the Sun Belt. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dave Schultz, back with another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. All right, not a whole lot of action in the Sun Belt, but some crazy action none the less. All right, it all started with that instant classic last week. Coastal Carolina takes down App State for the first time in lovely Boone, North Carolina, 27-24. All right. James Madison was playing Georgia Southern. That did not go as I thought. Troy beat Army. That did go as I thought. Georgia State and Marshall didn't go as I thought. And nobody thought, well, what happened in San Marcos was going to happen. And those are all the games we have to talk about. So we will go over. We already did Coastal and App State. So we only have 4 games to go over. And we'll go over all of them in this episode. Usually we have, 7 or so to go over. And so we break it up into 2 episodes, but we'll just go over these 4 games. And let's start off with JMU. I guess I learned my lesson. I don't know why I picked Georgia Southern. JMU is the best team in this conference. And it may not be by a little bit. It really might not be. James Madison shut down Georgia Southern, who averages, 338 passing yards a game? They came up with 304, but it didn't really matter. This game was over in the first 2 possessions. It was 14-0, and Georgia Southern couldn't get anything done. James Madison is really good. Jordan McLeod is really good. I mean, they scored on their first 4 possessions of the game. It was 20-0. Georgia Southern's defense showed a little bit of life, holding JMU to a couple of field goals. And when Georgia Southern had the opportunity to get back in the game, they couldn't. They had a chance. You can imagine, all right, down 20-3, get a touchdown. They got to make a take-it opportunity. Get it down to 20-10, and then 20-17, and you have a ball game because they got the ball to begin the second half. Didn't happen. And then they had disaster happen. 27-6. Davis Brin sacked, fumbled. Has to come out of the game. Backup quarterback Jason French comes in, forced to throw the ball on second and whatever because it was second whatever, and they need a first down. They need to get going. His pass is tipped, picked off, run back. Next play is touchdown. That's your ball game. For such a big ball game, I don't know if Georgia Southern was not prepared, not ready to go, too hyped up, whatever it was. JMU played overall much better than they did in the game they had against South Alabama. And they mentioned it, right? Against South Alabama, they struggled. And though I made fun of Ken Womack about it, we only gave up, if we didn't give up those explosive plays, it would have been a different ballgame. Well, yes, it would have been if you didn't give up the 3 explosive plays for touchdowns. But let's see what they were. They were 2 for 14 on third down against South Alabama. JMU, not that much better, 4-10, although that's a couple less third downs. And they were 1-on-1 on fourth downs. So on one of the third downs they didn't convert, they converted on fourth down. Georgia Southern just wasn't ready. Forget about what happened at the end of the ball game. As I said in the instant recap, this game was not nearly as close as this score would indicate. It wasn't as though Georgia Southern was inside the 10-yard line and couldn't do it, for most of the game. They did get down there. How far were their field goals? Let's see here. They kicked a 43-yard field goal. They did kick a 27-yard field goal. So the 43-yard field goal, they're still not in the red zone. The 27-yard field goal is from the 10, right? So, or they were on the 10. They are not. James Madison is, and not only is James Madison the best in this conference, I'm not sure anybody can challenge them in the East. And yet, because of this ridiculous rule that they cannot play in postseason, they can't play for the Sun Belt Championship, and they can't play for a bowl game because, let's be straight, first of all, they should be ranked in the top 25. And they very, not easily, but they very well could have been, if this is next year, in the top 12. Do we think that they would have a tough time against the bottom 5 of the top 25? Louisville just lost to Pitt, and a quarterback making his first start. Air Force, Tulane, and who's 25? Let's see. These are the bottom 4 on the top 25. Louisville, Air Force, Tulane, Iowa, and UCLA. Any of those teams going into Harrisonburg and coming out with a victory? I'm not so sure. Right? I don't even know if Tennessee can go into Harrisonburg and come out with a victory. Duke, Notre Dame. A lot of teams that are okay and have gotten by, not overall that great. This is a really good college football team, and it's a real shame that this is their bowl game this year is, their season is to go 12-0 and give a fat, big, middle finger to the NCAA. The Sun Belt is only doing what the NCAA is doing, but it is a real shame that that's the case. JMU, 384 yards, 259 yards passing. Again, Jordan McLeod, 20 of 31, 3 touchdowns. On the ground, 125 yards. They only had 3 penalties. Not a whole lot of penalties in the whole game. Either way, 6 penalties total. Georgia Southern actually did a pretty good job rushing the ball, 64 yards. JMU only gives up, less than 40. But Davis Brin struggled. Although did anyone see that play? I mean, am I wrong? Did they run a reverse flea flicker screen pass? I got to go back and look at, did they run the screen pass to the original wide receiver? Oh, that'd be even better. Because, right, they ran a reverse, right? Like Brin handed it off or flipped it to somebody, right? And then he flipped it to another wide receiver. He flipped it back to Brin, and Brin put it, it was a screen pass. Oh, I got to go back and look. I didn't even think of that until just now, that the original wide receiver who got, oh my God, that play took forever. Now, it did work. I'm not sure how many yards it's supposed to go for, but it did get a first down, did get 12 yards. But that is a crazy play. And it looked like, for the most part, Georgia Southern was going side to side, and it wasn't really working. They were having a difficult time going downfield. And they were in a hole from the get-go. And I'll tell you this right now, I don't think that game is any different if it's in Statesboro. Maybe it's a little closer, but JMU is that good. And they are, unfortunately, getting screwed by the NCAA. All right, Kurt Cignetti's got himself a team. We'll see. The Sun Belt, I'd put JMU with almost, with a lot of teams from Power 5 that would have difficulties playing JMU this year. That's what I think. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll do the rest. Texas State with an improbable comeback and an improbable everything. That game was improbable. Troy with a relatively easy win. And, I could say what's wrong with Marshall, but how about Georgia State? How about we give credit to Georgia State? All right, again, Yeti-style tumbler. We actually have a double sponsor. That's how well Locked On Sunbelt is doing. First up is Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from the seat, and the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With zone deals, you can pick the section and Gametime picks of seats for an average of 18% savings. And Gametime guarantees you'll always get the best price. If you find the tickets in the section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Almost confused the spelling on that. So, all right, let's see if we can do it off the top of my head. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. Locked On College. There you go. All right. Also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a skilled, real money daily fantasy sports game. How does it work? You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they go more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. At PrizePicks, you aren't competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. Available instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks. PrizePicks entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks offers a recently improved deposit and withdrawal experience, including the option to use Apple Pay for quick deposits into your account. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Once again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On College. I did it. Locked On Sunbelt. Your team every day. Knew that was going to happen. And it continues to happen, actually. All right, so let's give credit to where credit is due. All right, how about Georgia State? Georgia State gets off to this great start. They have 2 huge ball games with a bye in the middle. And they laid an egg, let's be honest, against Troy. They just flat out laid an egg. They lost to Troy 28-7. Just didn't show up. Huge win against Coastal Carolina. They get Troy at home, and it didn't happen, right? It just did not happen. They actually did. They actually kept Kamani Vidal in check, 76 yards, but Gunnar Watson threw for 256, and Georgia State had 3 turnovers. So they laid an egg. They had a week to think about it. They welcomed in Marshall, and they torched the Marshall defense. Now, didn't really get a chance to watch a lot of this ball game. Did see some as Marshall was trying to come back. And we'll get to that here in a second. So Georgia State beats Marshall 41-24, and Marshall's got serious issues. They do. 474 yards of total offense for Georgia State. Really balanced, 234 in the air, 240 on the ground. Marshall had the only turnover in the ball game. Marshall's offense actually had 457 yards, but the defense hasn't been there. Georgia State, 7 of 15 on third downs. Tough to get off the field. Darren Granger, solid. 21 of 31 for 234 yards and a touchdown. How about Marcus Carroll? Yeah. Marcus Carroll, running back, 28 carries, 159 yards, and 1 touchdown. Granger had 2 touchdowns on the ground, 12 carries, 62 yards, so 3 touchdowns total. Cam Fancher, did what he could. Stats are pretty good. 27 of 34, 301 with 1 touchdown. Rasheen Ali, I think he had a big fumble in there, 103 yards and 2 scores. Really, I don't know if it's a turning point of the game but where Marshall had a shot, they were down 27-24, and they stopped Georgia State at the Georgia State 28-yard line. 4th and 7. Beginning of the fourth quarter, they roughed the kicker. They ran into the kicker. Why would you run into the kicker at that point in time? One of the guys actually stopped, not to run into the kicker. Somebody else either got pushed into him or got way too close. It was a penalty, and that was it. Georgia State takes that in for a touchdown, and you go from 27-24 and you getting the ball to now it's 34-24 and you getting the ball. Had all the momentum. You get a touchdown, you get a stop, you got a shot. They couldn't stop them after that. And Georgia State gets a couple scores at that point in time. So Georgia State coming to me. Georgia State, well, not coming to me, but coming to Lafayette to take on the Cajuns. Cajuns have had a week off. This could be an interesting game. Early line was the Cajuns by 1. All right. You have, two very dynamic quarterbacks, but you got the veteran Darren Granger going up against the freshman Zion Chris. Could be a very, very good ball game, which defense can keep the other quarterback in check. Now, you do have to talk about Marshall. I mean, what is going on with them? They can't stop anything. Let's see if did they give up some more, I was going to say big plays. Let's see the big touchdown plays. Georgia State, 24-yard run, touchdown. Georgia State, no. 74-yard pass, another explosive play. The last 2 touchdowns were in close. So 2 more explosive plays against Marshall's defense. And it just hasn't been any good, right? What do we say? 400 and some odd yards. This time around, let's see what NC State had to put up a bunch, right? NC State put up 400 yards, and ODU put up a bunch of yards. Yeah, the defense has to get fixed. ODU, 434 yards. So Marshall's given up like 1,200 yards in the last, more than 1,200 yards in the last 3 weeks. That's unacceptable. They are too good of a team, and Charles Huff needs to figure it out. All right, whether it's replacing people, maybe they're banged up. Doesn't seem like that's the case. Following the Thundercast guys on Twitter. Again, can't watch the whole game, but they need to figure things out, and they need to figure them out fast. All right, let's take a timeout. We'll quickly go over Troy. They had a kind of a workmanlike win over Army, but then you had a crazy, and again, Texas State totally gets away with one. Great comeback, great atmosphere, and something that maybe we'll talk about that a little bit. It gets boring doing it on the radio all the time, but there's a lot of teams bypassing the Cajuns, right? James Madison, Marshall, App State, Georgia Southern, now Texas State. We'll see what South Alabama has in a couple of weeks, but South Alabama plays on Tuesday. We'll see if anybody's at that ballgame. All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk about that unbelievable Texas State ballgame. I got a text from another beat writer. He's like, what's going on? And the game is in San Marcos. Well, not another beat writer, somebody else who covers a Sunbelt team texted me during the ballgame. All right, time to tell you about Athletic Brewing and the game changer of the week. All right. Much like we got to go with Jordan McLeod, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. Jordan McLeod put the game out of reach against Georgia Southern immediately. He had a fantastic ball game, led JMU on a couple of drives to begin the game, and from there, it was all Dukes in the 41-13 ball game. Threw for 3 touchdown passes, 2 very early on. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good, full of flavor and well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewingcompany.com. First-time customers can use Locked On to get 15% of your first online order. That's LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewingcompany.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Bobcats steal one from ULM, and it's just been a brutal couple of games for ULM, right? They should have beaten App State, and they should have beaten Texas State. They very easily could be 4-2 instead of 2-4. I mean, they get a goal line stand against them. Then App State hits a game-winning field goal at the end. And this one, they are leading Texas State 20-9 with 9 minutes left to go in the game. We've seen this story before. After a pick six, Texas State goes down, scores a touchdown, and here is where we talk about this all the time. The offense goes 3 and out. People are going to blame the defense. They give up 2 touchdowns in the last 9 minutes of the game, so it's on the defense. We're hearing a lot about this now. Complementary football. The offense has to run the game out. The offense gets the ball back with about 4 minutes to go. It's a 4-minute offense. You need a couple of first downs, and then who knows if they can go down the field. Joey Hobart caught a 22-yard pass. Touchdown. I mean, give Texas State a lot of credit. I mean, they could have, TJ Finley throws a pick six. Game's over. 9 minutes to go. We can give Texas State a lot of credit. But the Warhawks offense let them down. They went 3 and out. You need to get a couple of first downs. Ask Texas State. Texas State knows exactly. Don't think Texas State wasn't thinking exactly what happened against the Cajuns. Right? They were up by 9. They allow a touchdown drive. They didn't quite go 3 and out, but close enough. And they got their punt blocked. Then they fumbled. Don't think Texas State wasn't thinking exactly that, because that's probably exactly what they were thinking. Hey, just like those guys stopped us, we can stop ULM. So everyone's going to blame the defense. The offense needs to get a couple of first downs. If you get a couple of first downs and they call a bunch of timeouts and they get 2 minutes, let's see if they called any timeouts. And they start calling timeouts and whatever the case may be. They did call a couple of timeouts. Hunter Smith, run for no gain. Jaya Wright, run for 2 yards. Hunter Smith, run for 9 yards. They called 2 timeouts. Texas State got the ball back with 3:15 to go. If you get 1 first down there, you might have won the game or make it much harder for Texas State. That's a tough loss for ULM. Again, all the credit in the world to Texas State. Brutal loss for ULM. Brutal. And it has been a tough run for them. On the other side, Texas State wins 5 games for the first time in forever and are 1 game away from going to a bowl game. All right? You don't lose the same game twice, and they almost did. And give credit to DJ Finley, right? I don't want to say he screwed up the Cajuns games, but when it was time to make a play, he didn't. And in this one, he did. Good job by them. Good job by Texas State. Bad job by Monroe. Again, people are going to blame the defense. The offense needs to run out the clock. That's what happens. All right, quickly. Troy, by the way, is the other good team in this conference. I don't know if I would trust the rest. We'll see. We'll see how Georgia State does against the Cajuns. They could come in here and prove a point. I don't know. I don't trust Marshall. I still don't trust South Alabama. That's about it. We'll see about the Cajuns. we'll see about the Cajuns. Meanwhile, Troy, let's see what we got here. They take care of Army. Good job by Troy. Army's not the easiest. I guess it was raining. They win 19-0. Gunnar Watson, an okay day, 10 of 21, 227, doesn't turn over, does throw one touchdown. Kamani Vidal, 23 carries, 116 yards, doesn't score. But they did a good job of stopping what is not the easiest defense. They gave up 255 yards against Army. 255 yards against Army. That's outstanding. All right. Outstanding. I don't even want to look, but I will. I know Army had a 80-yard touchdown pass against Syracuse. Now, let's see what the numbers are. They only had 270 against Syracuse. The sad thing is, so they had more against Syracuse, but 80 of that is on the last play of the game or so. Syracuse actually did a really good job in the second, third, and fourth quarters defensively, to be honest with you, except on the last play. All right, so quickly, let's we've gone long here, but let's check out the standings here in the Sun Belt. Where'd they go? Oh, we're at the wrong conference here. Okay, so James Madison leads the East, but they can't win the East. So you have Georgia State, they're 2-1. Old Dominion is 2-1. Just saying, they were off. They're 2-1. Georgia Southern is 1-1. Marshall 1-1. App State 1-1. Coastal Carolina 1-2. So they're going to have their work cut out for them. All right, not out of it. Especially because James Madison, they probably wouldn't have a shot with the JMU if JMU was eligible. But they're one game back of Georgia State. Well, 1.5 games back at Georgia State because Georgia State beat them. All right, so they lose a tiebreaker against Georgia State. They're going to need Georgia State to lose to have any shot. In the West, Troy leads Troy and Texas State are 2-1. Cajuns were off, so that'll get made up somewhere along the way. They're 1-1. Arkansas State is 1-1. They were off. South Alabama's playing Southern Miss on Tuesday. They're 1-1. Monroe and Southern Miss are 0-3. And unless Southern Miss can overcome a 16.5-point deficit, they're going to be 0-4 and 1-6. Whew. We'll just leave it there. So right now, James Madison and Troy, I believe, are the two best teams right now in the conference. Probably head and shoulders above everybody else. All right, we'll see how good the Cajuns are. The Cajuns get, I thought it is Georgia State. I got somebody in between. Georgia State, South Alabama, and Arkansas State at Arkansas State. So, then Southern Miss. So they're not playing Troy for a month. So that's way down the road. Who knows what everything's going to look like then. They got to take care of Georgia State at home for homecoming and Arkansas and the road trip to South Alabama. All right. Went a little bit long for only 4 ball games, but there's a lot going on in the Sun Belt, and JMU should be ranked, but they're not because even though the game was on TV, nobody's watching it or just wasn't impressed with Georgia Southern, whatever the case is. Don't understand. All right, we will do more. We'll look ahead. We're going to preview South Alabama and Southern Miss. We will do that on Monday. That's coming up on. We'll do that for Tuesday. All right, get my days right. We'll do that for the Tuesday episode as that ball game is coming up early in the week. Once again, thank you so much. We got 750 subscribers or over that. We are 3/4 of the way there. Going to take a little bit longer than we'd first had hoped, but we will get there. Appreciate everyone subscribing and the commenting. We're getting more and more comments as we go. Surprised you guys aren't calling me out on my picks because they have not been very good at all. Not been very good at all. Again, don't forget about the audio downloads. You can always find them at wherever you get your Locked On, wherever you get your podcasts. But Apple Podcasts and Spotify appear to be the most popular. Please rate and review if you are listening in Apple. Thanks again. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. You've been listening and watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.